Wow, I welcome everyone here this evening to our meeting of the Linn-Mar Board of Directors. I call our meeting together at 5:01, and I ask John, now will you please determine a quorum?
Director Buchholz?
Here.
Director Foss?
Here.
Director Langston? Director Mansour? Director Maury?
Here.
Director Thomas?
Here.
President Lau Lancaster?
Well, I'm here as well, so we do have a quorum. Thank you very much. To keep our meeting flowing smoothly tonight, I'm going to announce each agenda item and then request either a report or a motion. So we're going to take these, just everybody, we're just going to take them so we hear them well and have a clarity as we go through. So on doing that, just a second. Let's go ahead and try that out. On number 200, our adoption of our agenda. Do I have a motion, please?
Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Do we have a second? We have a second by Barry. Is there discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any noes? All right, the motion has carried. John, do we have anyone who signed in tonight?
Nope.
Do you have comments? All right, well, we will move on then from our audience communication, and now we'll go to our informal reports. Informational reports. Item number 401, our industry recognized credentials course/achievement report. Chad, let's hear it. Yay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thanks for this opportunity to share some follow-up.
Chad.
Can you hit your mic? Thanks. There you go.
Sorry. Thank you for the opportunity to follow up on some wonderful highlights we have about our industry recognized credentials being offered at the high school this past school year in 2025-26. Natalie has written a wonderful article for our website, sort of highlighting some of the great growth we've had in students who were able to complete an industry recognized credential, over a 340% increase in 1 year, which is really, really neat. We went from 79 unique students earning a credential in 2024-25 school year to 348 unique students in 2025-26, so a wonderful increase. And some of those students earned more than one, so I think we were over 418 total credentials this year. Top programs that you would see credentials earned in are Serve Safe, the OSHA 10 construction, Youth and Quality Care of Animals, Project Lead the Way. Some of our career academies at Kirkwood have industry recognized credentials in automotive, CNA, CPR, and basic life-saving support. Really, really neat to see, and just wanted to share that growth with you and celebrate all the great work. These are taken on by the initiative of our high school teachers. Some are in response to our career and technical education advisory that has members of the board, as well as community members, business owners, parents, students, talking about what they would like to see within our programming. We have a couple of different platforms that the high school has been able to use to offer great access and affordability for our district to a variety of different credentials, particularly within agriculture and business, which has been just wonderful. And right along those lines, I would also want to take this opportunity to share with you that we were just notified, I believe it was last Thursday or Friday, that we have been awarded a grant for a new IRC this year of $43,489 from the state of Iowa to bring on a new IRC. It's called the NC3 Precision Measurement Instrument Credential. It's a nationally recognized credential from Snap-on Tools, and it will be implemented directly in our woods, cabinet making, and residential construction courses. So this significant amount of money in the grant through the state of Iowa will allow us to buy the top-of-the-line Snap-on tool sets, also train our instructors to be able to provide and grant that precision measurement IRC in-house. Only about 22% of those students were able to earn an IRC this year, or last year, what this most likely OSHA 10. Those students, almost 100% of them, will likely earn an industry recognized credential in precision measurement. And so, of course, precision measurement's a great industry recognized credential to take into any career field. And so we're excited for those students and what that'll look like this year. The state of Iowa went to tiering industry recognized credentials about a year ago. Tier 3 being recognized as most industry partners being the most significant credentials you could get. This is a Tier 3 credential that we'll be bringing on, so we're super excited about that. John and Alyssa McDowell deserves a great amount of credit to help us as a grant writer from Venture. This is not a Venture credential, but she's just been a great help helping out our DEM department. Late May, we applied, and we just were notified that we received that grant. So a lot of good things happening for a lot of different unique students in our high school. Any questions or comments?
Can you just repeat how many unique students got credentials?
Yes, this year, our students earned 418 total credentials from 348 unique students.
Outstanding. Thank you, Chad, for your report. This is very good news and inspiring for our district. I'm going to go ahead, and now we're going to item number 402, our Finance Audit Committee report.
I was waiting. I left my notes at home, but I remember. Finance audit, we did all the bills from the summer, so that was a good chunk of the meeting. And then we got a preview of one of the building assessments, what that's going to look like and how all the projects are based and the tiers. And we looked at, oh my goodness, which one did we look at, John? Indian Creek? Yeah. And I was really... I'm excited to read the reports on all the other schools, even though it's going to be a massive amount of information, because it was just very interesting how it's all put together, and then the layouts and how everything's color-coded. And we had a really great discussion about how important this work is and how this is really going to guide us through. I mean, it goes through everything from HVAC and windows to the floors and the carpet and light switches and all of these things that we don't need to do right now, but we could, or that we'll do in 10 years. But it was just a really great kind of planning conversation. So, what'd I miss, Barry?
That was the major item. We talked a little bit about the playground at Indian Creek, and I just want to bring that up because this is a very valuable piece for the kids there. And I'm reading some articles down in North Liberty, et cetera, that there's been a lot of damage to their new playgrounds and the surfaces, the e-bikes, et cetera. So I'm not sure what that's going to mean for us or how we're going to monitor that. I imagine they have that on cameras out there, but I don't know, it just popped into my head because it's such a nice program now. And anyway.
Yeah, I forgot about, Indian Creek. The nice thing is that it's going to be done by the first day of school.
Yeah.
As long as it, isn't raining. But despite all of the summer rain, unlike last year when Wilkins got delayed because of rain, Indian Creek is on target to be ready to go by the first day of school. So the kiddos will have a brand new playground at Indian Creek.
Thank you very much for your report. Any questions? If not, we're going to continue on. Item number 403, Marion City Council report. Barry, do you have a report for us for the meeting on August 6th?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on now to, drum roll, our 404, Superintendent's report.
Awesome, thank you. Well, it's been another great week to be a couple weeks here to be a Linn-Mar Lion. So just have some fun announcements of things that have been going on in the district. We thank you board members that attended. We just had our open house for our new administrators and their families. So it was a nice way for us to welcome our new administrators into the district. We also welcomed 30 new Linn-Mar teachers this week. So whether they were first-year teachers or new to Linn-Mar, they are super excited. It's kind of like having a class. Carla and I were talking about this. Like each new group always has their own personality. This was a fun group. So I know our teaching and learning teams and our HR and tech teams, everybody had a really fun time with our new teachers over a day and a half. So we crammed a lot in, but it's really important for them to be able to hit the ground running. So we're excited to welcome them into their new roles. We are super busy this week. Obviously, we have district kickoff tomorrow. Just a reminder, the breakfast starts at 7:30 with our program to start at 8:30. This week, we have 2 professional learning days that are full of required things and trainings that we have to do with teachers. Teachers also have a work day this week to get ready before they have their open houses and welcome back to the school year. Just a couple reminders for the public. Remember, school starts on August 24th. That's our first day of school for our junior kindergarten through 9th grades. And we do have junior kindergarten and kindergarten split. So last names, families with last names that start A through M will start on the 24th for JK and kindergarten. And then families with the last names N through Z will start their first day on the 25th. So if anybody has any questions about that, just reach out to their building principals and they'll be able to help with that. September 1st then is our first day with our preschoolers. And I know I mentioned this before, but I just want to mention it again. Like, thank you to our custodial staff. I've been out in buildings, and it's always my favorite time to see the hallways all nice and shiny, and walls are cleaned up, and, you know, all it takes is the first really big rain or snow, and that shine kind of disappears. But our custodial and our work crews have really worked hard this summer to get our schools ready to go, and so we're excited and thankful for their preparation. And then just a quick board reminder, our September 14th meeting, because we have some board members gone tonight, we are going to push back the RSP. So they'll present during the meeting as an informational item, and then we'll have a work session following that will be with OPN around the facilities things. So just a look forward ahead for that. Otherwise, we're excited to welcome our students back to school next week.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions or comments? Outstanding. And I just want to remind anyone who's listening and taking some notes, when we say first day, that means the students are out. Check your speed limits, check your routes, and then also remind yourselves that it's a group effort to help our kiddos walk and cross and be aware of busing and when to stop for a bus and when not to just drive around one. So just our common sense on how we take care of our kiddos, especially in those early days. That has finished our report. Now we are to unfinished business. This is items number 500. We are now going to have item number 501, approval of updated 2026-27 student fee schedule. This was exhibit 501.1. Is there a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the updated 2026-2027 student fee schedule as presented in Exhibit 501.1.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Justin, a second by Barry. Is there any conversation? Discussion? As not hearing any, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? The motion has carried. Thank you very much. We are now to new business. This is item number 601, approval of open enrollment requests. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the open enrollment requests as presented.
I have a motion, a second.
Second.
I have a motion by Laura, a second by Britt. Is there any discussion? And hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? The motion has carried. All right, we're now to item number 602, approval of fiscal year 27, and I'm going to go ahead and have a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve John Galbraith as 2026-2027 Metro Metro Interagency Insurance Program Representative. Carla Christian is alternative, and Nicole Reddington is an at-large member.
We have a motion by Barry. May I have a second, please?
Second.
And a second by Laura. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? The motion is carried. Item number 603, first reading of policy recommendations. We're going to just pause. Lot to see. Those at the table can see it takes up a whole page of tiny little print. And so we're going to take this motion and just give it the dignity that it deserves because it was a lot to cover for the policy committee and a lot for us to digest as a board. So we're just going to do this smoothly. Right now, I need a motion to approve the first reading of policy recommendations as presented in 603.1, but we are going to omit
504.31 and 504.32.
501,
Nope, 504
504, sorry,
Point 31.
504.31.
and 504.32.
Thank you.
Does that include the E2s and the E3s?
No.
No, just those two. Thank you very much. So as there is no motion on the table, the motion to approve the first reading of policy recommendations as presented in item Exhibit 603.1, with exception of removing item for discussion, item number 504.31 and 504.32.
So moved.
Thank you, Laura. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Barry. We have a motion. Is there discussion? And lots of green lights. So, Britt, why don't you go ahead?
You sure?
Yeah, it was your request, so let's go ahead, and I think that's a great place to start.
Well, my request will be for the second session, the second motion.
Okay.
But I do have some okay, first I want to thank Nathan. He spent about an hour with me going over, my list was much longer of policy numbers I had questions about, and really got it down to just those two that I want to talk about separately. Just a couple of, I understand that most of the language in the disruptive behavior, the 502.16 and 16R1 and 16R2 is required by legislation. And I know there's going to be conversations between the first reading and the second reading. So I guess I would just, what I think we need to talk about either at now, and I know the answer is we don't know, or before we pass the second reading, is what does this look like in reality? Because there's so much in these policies that, like, when things get referred to the board, I mean, what does that look like? Are we holding special hearings? How often are we doing this? Is it like an expulsion hearing, or like the amount of time that teachers, if you have to have an IEP meeting with every teacher and the parents if a student is removed from a classroom before they can return, when is that happening? Like, there's only so many hours in the day. So I just have so many questions that I think staff will also have about how this actually looks in reality, that I would just ask that when you learn these things, and maybe you'll learn more in the next 2 weeks as you're talking to staff, but there's just a lot in here that is concerning to me about, it just does not seem realistic. And I know it's in the law, and I know we have to have it in policy, but any clarification that we can provide, things like must impose the maximum disciplinary action allowed under district policy when students, even for a first infraction, and I know Nathan and I talked about that doesn't necessarily mean suspension or expulsion, but it's just, there's a lot of words in here that just when you're reading the policy for the first time are concerning.
Yeah, and if I can jump in here. So,
Absolutely.
being on the policy committee and going through and reading the policy, not just for the first time, but sitting there in the meeting with it in front of me, and I'm looking at Ann Faber, who is working with her team with leadership to architect all of these policies and rules and procedures and forms and reporting and requirements to align with this legislation. And I had to pause and look at her and be like, if you sense frustration, it is not at you. It is not at this team. It is at the legislation and the situation and in it and implementing it in real day-to-day life. Because already, teachers have very full days. Student support associates have very full days. Our IEP meetings are already tricky to schedule with all the people that need to be in them. And this just adds a lot of requirements. And I don't doubt that the end goal, the heart of the legislation, had good intent. It's just how we are seeing that in the day-to-day, in policy, is honestly painful to read, and I don't have to live it. I am not those teachers. I am not in leadership trying to implement these things, and we're going to see how well or not it gets implemented. So I guess that's my long way of sympathizing with the frustration.
Well, and yes, I'm not frustrated with anyone in this room or in this district. I just simply had like 100 questions, because when you start talking about removing a student, and if it's grade 5 and up, then every single teacher that student has to then be in the emergency meeting with the committee that is per building, and then you got to get the parent in there, either if it's during the school day, which doesn't make sense because then you have to find 8 subs, then it's after school, which cuts into planning time, and there's just only so many hours. And yes, we want to address these issues, and yes, we want to curb these kinds of violent outbursts. I just don't see how it's gonna work, and I hate creating policy that, is it gonna work, or are we just satisfying the law? That's my question. But I'm not frustrated with anyone who had to try and write this. I'm actually empathetic towards you. The only change I would ask in 502.16 R1 is under the multiple nonviolent disruption removals, we do not have guidance counselors, we have school counselors. So my other concerns in policy, policy 503.4 is the student activity program, and as I was reading the changes, it just seemed like we were turning an activity policy into an athletic policy, and I had some concerns around that. In my discussions with Nathan, one of the thoughts that came is if in paragraph 2, after the first sentence, if that could be a hard return and it could be given a heading that says athletics, then the top of the policy still is an activity policy, and then all the rest of it is specifically athletics. Because right now I have just a bit of concern around allowing boys and girls to reap the benefits of school activities. If it's a strictly athletic policy, then that fits the law. If it's an activities policy, there's an inclusion issue for me. So that I would ask to just have some thought in between the first and second reading on how that policy is structured and what its intent is, activities versus athletics.
Definitely, and that was also definitely a point of discussion as well, so we are echoing those concerns.
Thank you very much. That exactly was going to say, Laura. That was our conversation at the table as well.
My last policy for this motion that I would like just clarification, 603.12 is technology and instructional materials, and this is really the policy about the 60-minute screen time. And Nathan was telling me how we have this really awesome program that tracks screen time, and that we are almost at 60 minutes already, that we're already in a really good place for this, and that there's kind of a misconception of what is screen time and how often our kids are on the screens. And I just wondered, Jerry, if you could speak to how we're already doing, because I know when I first heard, K-5, no more than 60 minutes a day, and I think of all of the curriculum and instruction tools that we have purchased that are online. Can you maybe talk about the tracking that we do on screen time?
The tracking is through Securely, which is our web filtering and awareness product. It does a compilation by grade level, by school, of the number of minutes that are spent online. I can't tell you how much time Susie spent on math today, but I can tell you Susie's second grade spent an average of 43 minutes online.
And it tracks the keystrokes and things, so we know when it's them actually on the computer versus when it's just up and the screen's on, but they're not actually doing anything.
Yes.
I think that's an important distinction.
It's online engagement, not just power on.
Okay, awesome. And then maybe Chad or Nathan, can you speak to just how we're looking at what curriculum requirements we have for students to be online with, and how we're tackling this process? Although, Chad, it might not be fair to you because you're high school and this is elementary.
Well, no, but Chad, we talked earlier about how this would fit in our curriculum review cycle. So can you just talk about how, and that'll be a future topic for the board as well, so that we'll share with you what that curriculum topic's going to look like. But obviously, having the new legislation we'll have to look at this with our curricular committees, our teams of teachers that we're going to pull together. Science is the one that we're starting with this year. So Chad, I'll turn it over to you to just talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, inevitably, our program evaluation process, looking at the amount of screen time associated with adopted curricular resources, is something that we need to take into consideration regardless of the law. Best practice in pedagogy for learning, and that's something that I think our teachers are mindful of. And this law specifically has some, things that are excluded. You think about screening as an example in the elementary, screening 3 times a year. Those things are excluded from, the digital online instruction. And so I think those are things, it's just an educational process as well to make sure that we understand, what is included and what isn't. And then just being mindful of best pedagogy related to online resources that come with our curricular resources, and what's the intent for a student, and age appropriate, a duration of time. And so that just comes with better professional learning around instruction and lesson delivery as well. I do think that the curriculum vendors are doing a better job of providing PL that you can understand to be the best users of the resources that we have access to as well. So that's been good. I've been hearing that from vendors pretty consistently the last couple of months as well, when we've had questions about, updates and what's going on. And a lot of their PL that we can access is about appropriate screen time with the resource that we already have. So those are good things.
I appreciate that as a committee, we get an opportunity to have kind of a first run at some of these things. And so, Brett, your conversation and your questions are very well received. So thank you very much. Just a quick, I know you have some more, just a quick on those too. These are learning processes, and right now we're living a little bit in between. But I do want to acknowledge that Jerry and your team was already doing some of this work before anyone even asked us to do this, because as a district we were already looking at best practices, but what was best for our students and what was most common sense for the teachers in their classroom as well. We've all been in the classroom and they're all showing us how to do all these incredible projects, and so our first thought was, oh, they can't do those anymore. And actually, it's how to figure out what does it mean to have on screen time and non-screen time. And it's not the same as what is in your home. It's what is instructional. So thank you very much. I do appreciate, we're living in the in-between. School has not yet started for us to even know when we say implementation, but our hearts go out to you and to the families and to the staff as we learn some new implementation and how do we find paths forward for documentation as well, but also be very clear when it works and when it doesn't work, and what does that mean as a district, making our voice known of when things work and don't work. I know, Britt, you had a couple other things you wanted to bring up.
Actually, that was the end of, well, no, it's not, because I gave you the wrong number earlier. I'm trying to find it. 502.3, student substance use. I'm scrolling up to read it, sorry. 502.3. I meant to have that in my motion, or my pullout, but I said the wrong number, so we'll talk about it now. I don't want to make you guys go back and do the motion again. So as I was reading this policy and the 504.32, which I asked to be pulled out, it was very reminiscent because I had this conversation and read these policies when I was on policy however many years ago. And I remembered these changes being suggested, and I remembered why we didn't do it. So the misuse of prescription medications, adding that language in, and it's just a really wide net with no explanation of how we are monitoring prescription drug use, how we are determining what is misuse of prescription drug use. I understand that this came from a community organization. This isn't something we're required to change due to legislation. This isn't something that ISB has recommended. Prescription drugs, yes, if one student has a prescription and they're handing it out to other students, is that misuse? Absolutely, and that would be covered even if it wasn't laid out in here. But we did not add this 3 years ago because we determined that prescription drugs are between the family and their doctor and their therapist, and it is like, that's a really wide net for schools to start trying to say, this is what we're determining misuse to be. So I have a concern about that being added into this policy.
Hey, Britt, can I ask you?
Yeah.
Can you expand on when you say it's part of a community?
ASAC made a recommendation.
Okay.
Can I add
Yeah,
clarity?
please. Mhm.
So ASAC reached out as part of their community outreach program.
Can you identify those? Identify your group. It's fine.
Oh, ASAC.
Thank you.
Area Substance Abuse Council.
Yes, thank you. Um, their community outreach program um, contacts local school districts to review their substance use policies and then provide suggestions as they, based on their expertise profession, what they're seeing. And so they reached out and then provided these suggested updates to our policy. And that is how this came forward. When I looked at this for policy committee, I was trusting the expertise of ASAC, but obviously their specialty is the prevention and treatment side of it, not school policy. And so I acknowledge that. And happy to hear others' perspectives, including perhaps Barry, since I'm assuming you may or may not recall. You were the only other one here when Britt was also here.
I don't think it ever made it out of policy committee.
Oh, okay, never mind. Then I guess you don't remember.
It was the three of us on policy committee, and I remember this was a really long conversation that we had about not wanting to put the school in between the family and their doctor and try and dictate what we prescribed as misuse outside of like a dealing situation. So it was in policy committee, and we chose not to include the recommendations to the board.
I'm going to leave this. Do you have a comment for this? Or do you?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yes.
Let me just jump in real quick. Yeah, first of all, I really appreciate the conversation around this. It's not really what I want to do is have a multiple of policies like this. And so, you can see kind of how we sorted those out. And you're right, to Britt's point, and that's what we talked about earlier, is that's not a required change. So obviously the board, you get to do that. The legislative ones, and I would be remiss not to thank my cabinet for the help that they've done with this legislative stuff. It has been a heavy lift, and I mentioned that in my board report, that in my 24 years of being in schools, I've never seen board policy dictated like this from legislative stuff. But I'm also a glass half full kind of person, and I know that we have the right people working on it, and our team has really spent a lot of time on all the tools, the processes, the things that we're going to do. We're sharing that with staff this week, so they'll know what those steps are, how to follow that. And, all of the other schools are also in the same position as we are. And so, I appreciate the board recognizing the lift that this requires for us. And, I'm just reminded of how talented our school staff is, because I was worried when we first pulled the administrators together on August 3rd, and they were like, okay, we'll figure this out. That just seems to be their way of doing that. So, our intent is to follow the policy and follow the law. There is a lot of gray area in these that we're still waiting on some guidance for. We have worked with IASB's attorneys. We have worked with Allers and Cooney's attorneys. Even scheduled separate meetings with Marion, our school attorney, to walk us through this, and have really developed a solid FAQ, especially for our building administrators, and walked through that with them today. So I anticipate we'll continue to have questions, and we'll gather those from staff as we work toward this. So yeah, I do realize it's a heavy lift. I appreciate the policy committee. They really went through these, and everybody else that wasn't involved with policy committee is asking really good questions. So thank you for the diligence. I know that was a lot for you to have to process this week in advance of the board meeting to review these policies. So that's just what I wanted to add. Thanks.
I guess going back to specifically policy 502.3, I think my next question would be for Anne in regards to this one. Is this one that was on your docket to kind of review? And if you could speak to your process or opinion, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, Megan oversees our nurses, and in collaboration with Megan and conversations with our nurses, they felt comfortable putting the prescription medication use improperly in there due to some things that have happened with our students with situations that have occurred, and felt that this would cover them with those situations. Britt, I appreciate, I wasn't here when you guys initially read over that. Listening to your perspective and what you shared, I didn't have that conversation with them to think through that, and so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
giving
I
that-
know.
that
I'm
background.
the only one that's left that was here for that conversation, which is why I was like, wow, this is sounding really familiar. And so then I was like, oh yeah, we had this in policy. We reviewed it before, and I remembered why and the conversations that we had. So.
I guess for me, looking at the end of the policy where it says it's the responsibility of the superintendent in conjunction with principals to develop administrative regulations regarding this policy is kind of where this rubber meets that road. And so I hate just like throwing in like you guys will have to implement it carefully, because it does have a very reasonable concern of, if it's prescribed by a doctor and the family is involved in that, or obviously the family would be involved in the prescribing of it, but that is.
Here's a really normal example that would be in violation if this wording was in here. You get injured, student gets hurt, say playing football or basketball or whatever, and they are prescribed Oxy, 1 pill every couple of hours. And they call their doctor, but that's what the canister says, but they call their doctor and they say it's not working, and their doctor says, go ahead and take 2 and let me know if that works. And they're seen taking 2, but that's not what the bottle says. According to the policy, they are misusing their prescription even though they had a conversation with their doctor. And now we are in between the student, the family, and their doctor and what is being recommended. For me, I think that when we talk about getting into the weeds, I just think that's between the family, and unless we catch a student handing it out like they're not supposed to, I don't think that we should be.
We do have separate policy on administration of prescribed meds, and so that would fall under.
Right.
I mean, I appreciate your example. That would obviously be with that prescription, something that our nurses would have to work through with that. So, here's the thing with, it's nice that it gives us a first reading tonight, because we can take this back and work on some of these. And, you can decide to pull it or advance it, whatever you want to do, and we can do some more checking on that. But I'm pretty sure that's covered by our, you'd have to, if a student's gonna have that level of drug in the school, they would have to fill out a form with our nurse to have that prescribed and work with the doctor on that. So we do have another separate, a separate policy for that medication disbursement or whatever that is.
And I would also share just having personal experience with medicine drop-off and filling out the forms and the dosages and everything. So I've actually run into instances with ADHD medication, for instance, which is a controlled substance that I have to bypass. And I had forgotten this example from earlier to share earlier, but there are definitely times with that med management where it is like you make a, what is it in football, where you make an audible. That's it. It's an audible. Look at me in my sports. Justin, are you paying attention?
Oh, I heard.
Okay. Excellent. And it's like, I talk to the doctor and I talk to the nurse, and that is my kid can only get an extra pill by coming to the nurse, and I have to be involved in the approval of them taking that. And so yeah, I mean, I get that there's a lot of pieces here, and we've kind of talked round and round, but I know it's the process-wise with meds in the schools, there is a very specific, it's dropped off. They keep track of how many pills there are. The doctor can fax an update to the prescription, or email it in, or I can call and say, or I can come in and be like, here, child, you need your medicine, and I, as the parent, can give it to you. That's not to say I don't understand the looseness of it.
For this evening, if there's no other concern other than mine, we can move on. That's fine. I just wanted to share historical why we didn't include it last time that was brought up, And because I read the wrong policy number, it's in this vote whether I want to vote for it or not, so.
May I add something? Is that
Please do.
the other conversation was we have, just thinking through the potential of this were to occur, or perhaps it may have occurred, I don't know, of students sharing medications. So we have those processes where medications are to be in the nurse's office, so forth and so on. But it's also making sure that our students understand and know that sharing prescribed medications is not allowed and it's improper. That was the conversation as well.
But wouldn't that be covered under that other policy, Nathan, that you're referencing?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to check that one.
Yeah.
I appreciate your willingness to hear. This is a first reading, and I hear also, Ann, I think some more, just remind us to look at that as we go for second reading. And is there any further discussion at this time?
I do have just two things here real quick. I wanted to first verify that at 603.12, which is the technology and instructional materials, that only applies to, is it K-5, right? Okay, so what I've seen in the news here from a different school board in a different part of the state, I believe that they applied that to all grades, and where it was getting caught up was that the marching band was not able to use iPhones to display their music. Yep, so perfect. Point of order question, if I was concerned about 502.3, and we've already made a motion here, and if we vote down the motion, do we have the ability to bring the motion back for the rest of the policies?
So right now, the motion does include 502.3 along with that group of policies. And what I will share as a member of the policy committee is we do take seriously useful, like this is a useful conversation, this is useful feedback, and I am happy and willing to make any necessary changes in policy committee going from first to second.
So
Sorry, just let me finish real quick. Sorry, thanks. And are we in any legal jeopardy, I guess is the question, if we have it on our first reading, because it is not enacted, right? Okay, that answers my question.
No.
I'm the one that pulled policy, and I meant to pull this one, but I read the wrong number. I do not plan to vote down the entire packet on this one policy. Yeah, if I still feel whatever I feel in 2 weeks, then, but yeah, I'm not going to hold up the whole thing, and I alone couldn't do that anyway, so.
I appreciate that, Britt. Good conversation. Again, remember that the great thing about a policy committee is to hear this feedback, and then I like what Laura always takes notes, so thank you very much on all of that. Is there any further discussion? Remember, we have three more that we have to, two more that we are still talking about. Those are separate from the rest of the packet. Are we all good with what's going forward for a first reading? Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion by Laura, a second by Barry. Hearing no further discussion, first reading of the policies as recommended with the exception of
504.31 and 504.32.
Thank you. Do I have all those in favor of passing these policies as a first reading with the understanding that comments and recommendations will be taken in consideration by the policy team prior to second reading? Do I have do I have any further discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any opposed? Whew, the packet has carried.
Good job, guys.
Now let's take those ones that were specifically discussed, and I'm going to.
May I ask a
Yes,
question?
please do.
Director Maury,
Yes.
would you like these considered separately or together?
Good call.
I don't, separately, because the first one was the mistake, and I'm fine with the policy, you can pass.
What I'm trying to clarify.
Yeah, just make a motion.
Okay.
Okay, here. I move that policy 504.31, I move to pass policy 504.31.
Is there a second?
For the first reading?
for the
Yes.
first reading.
Second? Barry, second. Motion by Britt, second by Laura. Motion by Britt, second by Barry. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, may I have, all those in favor, please say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? The motion is carried.
I'm
Now
sorry.
we have,
504.32.
So motion to, oh gosh, motion to approve the first reading of the policy recommendations for 504.32.
is there?
Second.
Second. We have a motion by Laura and a second by Justin. Now is there discussion?
So my concern is it goes right back to 502.3. I was in the policy committee when we went over this last time. The reducing from 2 doses to 1 in the procurement and maintenance of supply section. There are instances, we have it listed as 2 because there are instances where depending on the weight of the person having the issue, sometimes 1 dose is not enough and you need the second dose. And there have been instances even in the last year where the second dose is what saved that person's life. So I am against going down to 1. 1 is what's required by law, but 2 is what is best practice health-wise in the discussions I had in policy 3 years ago. That's my entire comment.
Thank you very much. Ann, is there any discussion or, Nathan, any discussion on this one from a staff perspective?
Ian, do you have anything you want to add on that one? I'm assuming this was legislatively required because we just have to have 1, is what we talked about, or at least what I had from my notes from IASB.
You're clarifying that it came through IASB?
Yes.
That,
So IASB had the bare minimum of setting it at 1.
okay, because I have no problem keeping it at 2. That reasoning is sound to me. If Anne, you have further insight?
Not.
Okay, that's fine too.
So if I understand, having 1 was the minimum, and that's why it got in there. Having 2, you still could have 1. I mean, if a student still just needs 1, but you have the option of having 2 during the day if you needed to.
Right,
correct?
and the reasoning we put 2 3 years ago was because sometimes 1 isn't enough depending on the size of the student.
May I ask? Would it be best practice to have both 2 pediatric and 2 adult doses? Because right now, like if we were to keep the 2 TWO, it would say 2 pediatric and 1 adult dose. Director Maury, do you recall?
I do not recall. I do not recall with 100% certainty. I know that it was 2 pediatric because part of the conversation was around that some of our elementary kids are just bigger kids, and it takes the 2 doses. I don't remember if we said 2 adult. I just remember we were talking specifically about younger kids, and sometimes the pediatric dose is not enough for the size of the student.
Thank you. Ann, I have another clarifying question. I apologize. Is this, the passing of this policy, given that school starts in a few days, will it change anything immediately? Do we have time for our staff, our medical staff, to come back and give us a little feedback? Do we need a first reading so that students can at least get a first dose, let alone, I mean, what needs to happen so that school can continue in this policy not restrict anybody from, what they need. So, I guess that's where I'm kind of at. I appreciate Britt's insightfulness on it, but I also don't want a policy get hung up and then 2 weeks later we find out that, and now remember, it's a first reading, and until it's a second reading, it does not change. So let's say first reading, whatever, and we come to the second reading, that's when it sticks.
The policy already exists,
Yeah,
so it doesn't change what we already have on hand.
The revised, that's what I'm, correct. Thank you, Britt, for that clarity.
I believe we are okay to move it forward for more discussion. I think for second reading, absolutely. And I can also then seek clarification from our nurses as well to share the conversation tonight.
So what we have now on the table is a motion by Laura, second by Justin. We have our discussion and what Britt would like. Is this prior to second reading, Britt, or do you want it just struck down? What would be your intent? Is this more fact-finding, more clarity, and give Ann's team a time so that they can weigh in on this, because they're the ones who will be faced with this, or what would you, because right now we're hypothesizing a little bit at the table, in knowing that the medical care team is the ones who are saying this is what they need?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm simply
Yes, I agree.
remembering the previous conversation.
Thank you.
I'm fine with moving it. I only want the 2 to stay in the policy. I'm fine with the other changes, so I don't want to hold that up. I just don't want it to change from 1 to 2.
Got it.
That's my
So
request.
going forward to second reading, that would be
Or
it.
from 2 to 1, sorry. I don't want to
Yep,
change from 2
got
to
it.
1.
No, don't take away. Got it. So the policy is, the motion's on the table. There's a second. We've had discussion. We now understand the recommendations to go to second reading. Am I correct? Any further discussion? I'm going to go ahead and then say we have a motion on the table to regarding our policy number 504.32, stock prescription medication supplies. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Those abstaining? The motion is carried. And please note our recommendations going forward. That was it?
I do want to say that I do really appreciate everyone's work on these policies. I know I come in every time we have a big stack of policies and I have all these questions, and I would have more if you hadn't done such a great job of putting the policies together. So I do appreciate all of the work that goes through here, and having spent 2 years on policy, I know what those meetings are like, and I greatly appreciate that I am not on that committee anymore. And that you are, and that you're doing great work.
We love it. We love it. Make it most fun. All right, thank you very much, Britt. Everyone else has had a conversation. We're going to move on now to our items number 700, our consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Second.
Laura's got the second. Is there any discussion? It's first time in a long time. There's no retirements here, so everybody hold tight.
I'll
ahead.
just, for clarity, on 704-2, that is not related to me. So
Oh, you're not in the FOS kit?
I am not
Part
part of the FOS curriculum, part of
Thank
the
you
FOS
very
spin
much.
spin
Very much.
school. No.
All right. We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. We're now to items number 800, our board calendar and communications. I'd like to highlight some of the upcoming events. Thank you, everybody, for the wonderful greeting we got to have. I think all those cookies are still out there because everybody was too polite to eat the cookies and have a water before we were meeting the cabinet. But thank you to our cabinet and to the ones who brought their family. That was lovely. We also now have August 18th, our staff kickoff. 7:30 in the morning is when we begin, but I believe comments will be at 8:30. So please come. And thank you to Gayla. I believe that she's put a lot of snacks and work into this, and I'd like to thank Gayla for her work. August 20th, I have Marion City Council will be Laura. We have our 2 starting dates. August 24th, as Superintendent Weir has told us, first day of school for K, last names A through M, and 1st through 9th grade. August 25th, first day of school for K, kindergartners, last name N through Z, and our 10th through 12th graders. Then everybody, we have, pre-K first day is September 1st, and eventually everybody back here just in time for Labor Day, and we're taking that one off. Is there any other conversations or questions on any discussion on times and dates, Britt?
No, I just have a communication update.
All right.
Oh, I have a question about the calendar.
Okay, go ahead. Calendar question?
It's the same question I had last time about the Facilities Advisory Committee and if or when that might be scheduled.
Yeah, I can take that. John and I have talked about that. We talked about the timeline, like, hey, how much in a crunch are we going to do this? And some of this got delayed with pushing the work sessions back. So as soon as we can get the facility stuff together, and then next steps with the Indoor Activities Center, where John and I had that on our calendars to get those scheduled.
Okay.
That makes sense? Some of it's going to be helpful once we get the facilities report back, because then that greater facilities committee is going to have more things to talk about. We do need to get back in front of the steering committee for the Indoor Activities Center to determine what that phased approach is going to look like.
Facilities Advisory is going to meet before we do our work session on the report about facilities, though, correct? So that they have time to digest and provide input to the full board?
Yeah, I don't know if, that makes sense to me. I mean, we just need to get that on people's calendars, so.
I just was asking, since our work session is, what, the 14th, or that's the work session for
Yep.
that, right?
Yep, on September 14th, yep.
So, okay.
Thank you.
And that was your question too, Laura? Same question? No.
That
was
was my
your question.
question. Director
Brit-
Maury
okay.
had something about the calendar.
Thank you very much.
Or, no, communication. That's what it was.
Any other questions?
I make a motion to adjourn at 5:56.
Point of order.
Yep. Do you have
I was
another-
just waiting for the calendar part to be done. Are we doing communications?
Oh, it's not here, so I apologize. Go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to give an update that on the Venture Academics project for finance for property taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Last time I had said that I had been invited to meet with City Hall, and we did have that meeting with the venture teachers, and kind of they outlined a scope of a project, and we are going to be pitching property tax communications to the students in a couple weeks, but they won't tackle, they're going to do the city first, so they won't tackle us until later this fall. But, and we pitch to the students because ultimately the teachers don't get to pick the projects, they just get to recommend the projects. So if the kids don't really want to learn about property taxes, they might say no. So, but yeah, so we're pitching to the students in the next couple weeks.
Go property tax. Thank you very much. Appreciate that update. Barry,
Does,
do you
well,
have
does Laura have a question too?
no, Laura, do you have a question?
We're all
Are you
good?
just ready?
Oh, sorry, I left my light on. When I wanted to make sure that Britt got her opportunity, but no,
We're good.
I just left my light on
I'll
accident.
right.
modify my motion then, 5:57.
5:57. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Britt. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? We are adjourned.